Welcome to another live edition of the Noon Dish. I'm Tommy Ashley. That's Don Callahan. We are, as always, sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt and Congruity, local businesses with big names for themselves. Support them. I'll talk about them a little bit later. Don Callahan. Um, you're looking more and more like somebody that hasn't slept a ton. Um, is
Not
that
only that,
accurate, or is it work or baby or a combination of
it
both?
it's a combination, and then also actually played in a parents versus players basketball game last night. Full
Basketball.
court. Yeah, yeah. I realized that I was not in shape. Not that I thought I was, but I definitely realized. But it was good. It was good.
Did
So
you have were you wearing the new cargo short jersey pants? Is that because you look like a cargo short person?
I had on some, I guess, khaki shorts, no
There you go.
cargo. Parents won big time. It was one of Bree's travel teams. We did this as like a pizza party last thing, sort of. And her coach happens to be really good. So, um, I just was like, all right, my best contribution is going to be on defense, mostly because I could probably only energy wise contribute on one end or the other. So I was like, I'll just do defense, and let everybody else kind of do this. Although I did have, I think I had 6 points, so it's not too bad.
You know, what kind of money are y'all spending on a travel team if the old parents are winning?
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
that makes me question the elite level of the travel team.
yeah.
At any rate, we got a top five to talk about. We're going to do top five college mascots. Something different. Somebody said summer blockbusters. We can do that at some point. Sean, appreciate that. If there anybody else has got any other ideas for that, let me know. But top five college mascots can be living, can be um, fake, or whatever. I've got a number one. I've got a number one, two, and probably three, maybe four.
We
Right
need
off.
five.
This might be one where I actually have a list.
Uh
But
oh.
top five college mascots for the end. Drop your questions for Don. We got a lot to talk about. Mock class, what, 3.0
Yeah,
dropped last week
yeah.
after we did, after our normal week off of Noon Dish. And then we're going to talk about some 2026 offers. It is insane to believe that we are in 2024. We're going to talk about 2026 high school players. Don and Mitchell says Seaman in the chat. Are you ready for college football 25? Yes, indeed. If you haven't seen, Amarian Hampton got a 93 overall rating. Cayman Rucker with a 91. We're going on a trip, Don, to Chicago and Cleveland
Okay.
next weekend. So
What are you doing there?
we are going to Wrigley Field
Okay.
in Chicago, and then see all the Chicago stuff after that. Then I'm renting a car. We're going to drive to Cleveland
Mm-hmm.
and go to the Guardians. Got a hookup there. Need a hookup in Chicago, but got a hookup there. And then I'm going to drive home,
Okay.
drive the family home through
We
West
did a
Virginia.
we did a vacation in Cleveland, and people laugh, but we did. It's within driving distance of the Football Hall of Fame in Canton.
Yep,
The
doing that.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is in Cleveland.
Yep.
Also, Cedar Point, I believe it's called, has the most roller coasters of any theme park in the United States. We went there. We also saw the Christmas Story House, and then which is in Cleveland, even though I think the story is based in Chicago. I
Mm.
think.
You need to send me
Uh,
that. You need to send me
yeah,
that. We need to go by there.
that was actually really cool because of they have obviously the house, and then across the street is like a museum sort of thing. It's not very big, but like everything I thought was pretty cool. Like they had one of the rabbit costumes. Apparently there's three of them, I think it was, and some other things. It's not like a super long. It's not like a day long thing, but I thought it was cool. I mean, it's one of my favorite Christmas movies. But yeah, that was a cool
Check
little
it out.
experience.
Even
Yeah.
though there'll probably be 100 degrees, we're going to do Canton. We're
Uh
going to
huh.
leave Cleveland, go south, do Canton, go to
So you're gonna do.
Morganton.
So you're doing Hall of Fame.
Yep, doing
Okay.
we're doing the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for sure. Doing
Oh,
the
really? Okay.
Pro
Oh, I thought you
Football
made
Hall
it
of
seem
Fame.
like you were just going to the Guardians game and then leaving.
No, we're going to Guardians. We're getting there Sunday, going to Guardians Monday, and then leaving out Tuesday. So we'll do the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame
Cool.
Monday.
I'm not a big music person, and I know that you are. And
Hmm.
I thought that was really cool too. And
Yeah.
so I think you will. Have you done it before?
Nope.
I think you will absolutely love it. It is
Yeah.
really, really cool.
And then hit Canton, hit Morganton, and then go down the gut of West Virginia, see the New River Gorge area, and then work our way back to the house the next day somehow.
Oh, before
Should
we
be a fun
get too
trip.
deep, can we give the chat MVP from
Chat
last week?
chat MVP last week or whenever we last did it. Go.
Eric Miller, chat MVP, very active. I think even towards the end of the podcast, you had commented that Eric was on fire on the show last time. So is Eric? I don't think I have seen him
I haven't
in
seen it
here.
yet. Eric, if you're in here, pop up and say something.
Yeah,
But yeah.
congratulations.
All right, let's get the show on the road. 6
All right.
minutes of
Yeah.
shooting the breeze. Let's go. There's Eric Rust. He's
Yeah.
driven through West Virginia. We shall see what it's like. I'm not getting on the back roads because I've heard about those West Virginia folks. And
Yeah.
Eric Miller is in fact in here.
Oh, congratulations, Eric. Yeah, we stopped at West Virginia at one point late at night. We decided we were supposed to stay. We did this like a 4th of July sort of thing. We went to the 4th of July event stuff, and we were supposed to leave the next day. But for whatever reason, we were like, let's just pack up the car and just leave and get home. And so we got home at a good time and just basically slept the next day. But we had to stop at some gas station in the middle of West Virginia. And yeah.
I'm staying on the
I heard
interstate.
banjos.
Almost reminds you of Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your mock class. You
Okay.
dropped it last week. Obviously, Bryce Baker, the biggest name on that list, who continues to make a name for himself. May one day make a name for himself on this show here. Who knows? But one thing that caught my eye immediately,
Uh-huh.
a TBD on running backs. I don't know if I've ever seen you post a mock class that had TBD.
Yeah. I probably really, just to kind of stick with my habits of just throw Bo Walker up there, because Bo Walker is more likely to be a part of this class than TBD, even though I think the odds of Bo Walker being a part of this class are very small. But I mean, you never know what can happen. Uh, Crazy stuff could all of a sudden happen in Georgia, and then people could be trying to escape out of there, and North Carolina would be a good landing spot for Bo Walker. But regardless, I mean, with that situation, as we kind of laid out, it's the running back spot is a position that is completely unsettled. Larry Porter has shown through the years that he's willing to take his time trying to find running backs. He will take recruitments into the fall. He did it with Jordan Louis. If you remember, it's not a great example, but Petaway, also took his recruitment into the fall. I feel like there's another one that's escaped me at this point, but he's never been in a rush. He's never in a rush. He wants to make sure he gets the guys that fit. And so, from my understanding, there are some players on the radar that the coaching staff will be looking at this season. I threw out a couple of names, just not randomly. I just know that there are guys who are to some degree on the radar. That's for those who can read the weekly scoop. If you haven't read it yet, check it out. You can kind of see a couple of names, but I think somebody. It's the chances of who will be a part of this class of the running back position is most likely somebody who hasn't been offered yet.
I'd love to mention one of them, but I won't mention it. But I will say it describes this guy's name describes the summer heat. You know
Okay.
what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, so the summer heat and the month and last month and the summer heat, what it's been like. Great name for a college football player. When you're looking at your mock, obviously you've got guys that have already committed, the offensive line guys specifically, defensive line guys as well, linebacker as well. What surprised you the most when you were going through this, the way you do it? Did anything surprise you as you were working on this?
Yeah. I guess it surprised me that I kind of went into it thinking I was going to throw three wide receivers on this group. I mean, let's just to be clear, anyone who's been following this knows that by the by the time I put this together, there was very few spots North Carolina is still kind of pursuing. You know what I mean? Everybody's basically has made their decisions and that sort of thing. So there wasn't a whole lot of real movement that I had to make or a decision I had to make. But once I started kind of digging, and I learned that it's most likely North Carolina is only going to take two wide receivers in this class, which makes sense. I mean, wide receiver isn't a need. What ends up happening every year because, you know, it sounds like I'm just kind of kissing his ass a little bit, but Lonnie Galloway does such a good job of recruiting is that it puts North Carolina in the position to where they can land multiple receivers.
So what just happened there?
My Alexa went off. Someone was trying to jump in on me.
Oh, I thought you were having a moment there with a dog or a cat started fussing
No.
at you. So let's talk about this. Um, the size of the class
Mm-hmm.
seems kind of small.
Well, we had a
Given,
question. Did you want to throw up the question since it's
well, I can throw it right here. Tyler
no,
Woods.
no, it wasn't Tyler Woods. It was another one.
Sorry, Tyler. We'll get to you in a minute.
Tyler, you gotta wait.
There you go. My question is about the class. It's looking to be very small based on Don's mock. If they intend, do you know if they intend to be very active in the portal to compensate? Now, looking at the numbers that have been bandied about on the message board, there are going to be a lot of available spots for North
Mm-hmm.
Carolina after this coming season. I don't know, unless you're going to go full on Deion Sanders at Colorado transfer portal. I don't see how you do it. But what's your explanation?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have to do some digging into this topic, and so I imagine it will be addressed to some degree in a weekly scoop coming up. But what I do know is that one, I mean, I think in the backdrop of all of this is just the uncertainty of with what rosters are going to look like. So I think what you don't want to do, and this is not just specific to North Carolina, this is for everybody. You don't want to be stuck with players on your roster who you don't think can contribute at some point. So I think a lot of schools are being very careful with who they are offering and who they are trying to bring in on this class because we don't know what the rule. I mean, there are a bunch of people saying, hey, there's going to be revenue sharing by the 2025 season, and what does that look like, and the collective bargaining and roster configuration and that sort of stuff. So so that's kind of the backdrop of all this. So I imagine the uncertainty of stuff, and this would be a great topic to kind of bring Pat Sudis on to talk about a little bit more. But anyway, but from what I've been told with a lot of different situations, that North Carolina was pursuing a certain guy and decided not to go further with them because they just felt like, hey, instead of taking him, let's go to the portal. And so, yes, so I think all along North Carolina was intending on being very active in the portal. But I think that, there's a lot of situations where they're like, okay, do we want to use this scholarship, or would we pocket it and try to see if we could use it later in a different situation? It's not like, even a couple of years ago where North Carolina's like, okay, we need to get a offensive lineman. So let's just try to find the best offensive lineman or the best defensive lineman and offer them, sign them, and hope that they turn out to be, better than what we thought, sort of thing. And now it's more of like they're taking guys. I mean, there was a lot of swinging for the fences, which I know it makes the hit rate go down a lot, but there was a lot of swinging for the fences in June with the official visits and everything.
Yeah, just briefly, Jimmy Lee, you're asking about Deuce Caldwell. Transferred out, couldn't tell you where he wound up. To be honest with you,
did. Well, maybe he's the one that we haven't. I think he's the one we haven't been able to find out where he landed.
yeah, I don't. And I was just googling it while I was listening to you talk, and I don't see where he has landed. And
Yeah, so
that's the nature of the beast with the
the
portal.
the person to talk to on that would be Ben, because Ben's been tracking that stuff, and I know I was talking to him about a few guys, and one of them, Jefferson Boaz, found a landing spot at what school in Texas or whatever, and I think Caldwell, who actually tweeted out some offers once he
Yeah.
transferred into the portal. Hopefully he finds some place. I think he's a good player and great kid. So hopefully he finds some place to go.
It's I mean that's the thing, Don. Let's talk about this just for a second.
Sure.
Thousands go in the portal.
Yeah.
And we're spending a lot of time this summer tracking the baseball transfer portal. But in every sport just about thousands go in and not thousands come out.
Yeah,
The
and that's
other
something
side.
that's
It's like,
not being talked about enough.
like where do they go? Where is Cameron Roseman Sinclair?
Yeah.
Did we ever figure that out?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
I mean, it's just like, do these guys just go on about their lives? Just, and it's like give up the sport or whatever. It is bizarre to me.
Well, if you don't find a landing spot, if you don't find a school that's willing to have a scholarship spot for you, what do? You know, I mean, your options are basically giving up the sport or maybe trying to walk on someplace. I mean, and that's something that's not being talked about enough, or hardly at all. But it's kind of the byproduct of this situation. And really, if you are a player who is looking to, or considering the transfer portal, you better make sure that you have a landing spot. And Mac Brown mentions, and I agree with him, and I understand the frustrating part from his side of this tampering. Well, I'm sure if a kid's thinking about transferring, the safest thing for him to do is to make sure he has some destinations, because staying in North Carolina, not playing is probably better than not having an opportunity to go anywhere and not being on scholarship anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at, everybody says the grass is not always greener. Well, this is, to the tampering question is, I'm not jumping in without knowing where I'm going.
Yeah.
Because of that very reason. And Preston and, our friend Preston, I figure every P5 player finds a place somewhere. Well, we just talking about one that hasn't. And so you got, it's just wild.
Just look at what 247 has on the portal stuff. I mean, if you go through it and kind of scroll through it, there's a lot of names on there. And this is, just keep in mind, this is just what 247 has. There's other names that might not make it onto their radar and aren't being reported, that aren't finding a landing spot.
Yeah. Crazy to me. Crazy when you think about it. But let's get back to what we were talking about, because I think Carolina's use of the portal has helped them in all sports, really, but on the football side specifically. But can you envision a situation, and you said it would be a good discussion with Sudis, and I think it would be, but can you envision a situation where they're able to use it as much as some of these other schools? Like I just saw Oregon and Phil Knight going to have unlimited NIL. I don't know how accurate the total facts are, but like, how do you compete against that if you're not going all in on it?
Well, this goes back to what I was we talked about on a different topic, but just what does the roster situation look like? I just do not think, one, is sustainable, and two, that it works when you're doing the whole collective bargaining stuff, that these teams are not going to want some sort of roster stability. I don't know what it ultimately ends up looking like, but it would surprise me that these schools are going to share money with the players and there not be some sort of roster commitments from their end, because every other sport that we have that has collective bargaining, and they're all professional sports, but they all have some sort of contract, commitment to the schools or to the teams in exchange. And I think ultimately that's what we will see at some point. Maybe that's not the first iteration that we see. Maybe that's something later on down the line, because there's so many things that need to be worked out with this. But go back to your actual question. you can't rule anything out. I mean, I just can't rule anything out. And so what Mac has preached and what has been told to me for a while is that UNC wants to build its program through high school and then kind of supplement and fill holes through the transfer portal. But yeah, I mean, if we're looking at some of these numbers and kind of grinding them out, it does look like that balance is not matching up to what they're saying. Maybe it's, just for this year, maybe it's a change. I mean, I don't have the exact answer at this moment on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you got to keep up one way or another,
Yeah.
and you got to develop and build and all that, but you got to have bodies. And you're right. Every other sport, every other professional sport has contract. This is why the NCAA is such a garbage organization. Is every other entity has protections for both sides.
Yeah.
Worked in the laws or the way things work, except for the NCAA. I mean,
well, let me ask you. I know you're more of a legal mind than I am from your background. Well, compared to me, you definitely way are. But the one thing that they have mentioned is, and it hasn't really. I mean, it's gotten a little bit of steam lately. Is Congress having some sort of, I don't know, exemption where these players aren't considered employees. And I'm just wondering if that's in the best interest of the player, because in addition to being compensated, there are other benefits to being an employee that we're afforded. And if you're not considered an employee, that stuff, you don't get those benefits, I would think. I mean, I guess that they could do a whole lot of different things. So what are your thoughts on all that, just the potential for them? And we're really getting off topic, but
yeah, but I don't. I mean, it's relevant to recruiting. It's relevant to portal recruiting. And I'll say, before I say anything, North Carolina has done an amazing job at retention in the era of the transfer portal, across the sports. I mean, especially in baseball and in football and all that. Now, acquiring talent out of the portal in the NIL era has been a different animal altogether that they've had. But as far as, I mean, there needs to be, like, what Colorado, for example, and we talk about a coach comes in and basically pushes everybody out, tells everybody you got to leave. How is that protecting the players?
No, you're right. You're right.
And that's my issue with all of the way this stuff has gone, is like, everybody sees NIL and all these guys. You hear Armando Bacot talking on Penson's podcast how he made $2 million at Carolina. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
That ain't like it is for everybody.
Yeah.
That's not like it is for a Deuce Caldwell that put in his work, and now he's whoever. Now, he made a choice to leave, but that's not always the case everywhere else.
The fact is that Bacot, those are more of, I don't want to say the exceptions.
I think they're the exception.
Okay. That's what I think there are more kids not in that situation that are getting screwed or will be screwed.
I think they are exponentially compounded, doubly and triply players that are getting screwed.
Yeah.
In this era.
Yeah.
I could be way wrong, and I could be way off on that. But, there's a lot. All you got to do is go to your hometown.
Yeah.
And you see, man, I thought you played for so-and-so.
Yeah.
And they're like working for the dad's mechanic shop, which is a great job. Don't get me wrong. But it's not what everybody – and then you've got people that are making hundreds of millions of dollars on the other side of it. I don't know. There needs to be some sort of collective bargaining, players union, something. And if you want to call them employees, whatever it takes to get some sort of balance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't you agree with that? It's like across the board.
I think ultimately the system needs to closely replicate a professional league to where there are collectively bargained, to where the players are representing themselves and agreeing to whatever agreement so that they can make sure what's being done for them, they're protected. And then the teams obviously can keep their best interest in mind also, because they have every right to try to keep their best interest too. And then ultimately that helps with, balance. And so that the one thing we don't want to happen is only 6 teams are really good and everybody else, has no chance against those 6 teams. That's the other part of it too. So if Oregon has this unlimited budget, and I imagine, schools like Alabama, schools like Ohio State, and I'm sure some SEC school, Texas A&M, maybe not be unlimited, but close to it. It eventually just not that I understand. It's never been equal, but it's been a little bit closer to equal before.
Yeah, there needs to be a salary cap.
Yeah,
there needs to be whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I don't even know where academics come into all this. Not that that's even a thing anymore. It doesn't seem like it. You never hear that discussion.
Yeah.
So that's another runway there. But somebody in the chat says players will get destroyed in collective bargaining. That's what I mean. Is that
I disagree. Without the play, like if you have a union, look at this. We've seen in professional sports, baseball, when the players went on strike. What was it? Was it 95 strike? Killed baseball. They have leverage. The players have leverage. If all of college football right now, the players right now, were a part of the union and said, we don't like this deal, we're striking. Then the college football teams don't have players. Yeah, you could say, let's take some high school players or whatever, or take some players underneath them. It's not going to be the same. They do have leverage. And the fact that they have leverage is why we've been in, they've been in court for the past, 10 years. And the why that we're getting in this situation is because they have finally said, hey, wait a second. We have rights too. Which is the leverage. We have rights too. We have our name, image, and likeness. We are, basically working. You have the Dartmouth case where they said they're employees. You have the Southern Cal case where it's ruling where it seems likely that board is going to rule that they are employees also. So the players definitely have leverage. They will not get killed here because college football teams need the players. Without them, there is nothing. And the players need the teams too, because, we've seen, just about everything with like the best example is the D League. Nobody watches it, and you look at all the other pro football leagues outside of the NFL. Who watches that? I do have a brother who gambles on it. Besides him, nobody watches those. So you do need the teams too, but you need the players. The players most definitely have leverage.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy discussion, and this is what's an interesting thing when you look at, and I'll circle it back to Carolina and recruiting and Mack Brown. When Mack Brown came in 18-19, how different was the world, but the college landscape in those 5 years.
New King God is like trying to put all of this. What a name, by the way. Trying to put this all in the college football basket. I think that once it comes to that point, they're going to change things dramatically. I think you'll have a bigger window to play, and they have systems set up like junior hockey set up very similarly, where they're getting paid and all that sort of stuff. If going on strike for a year means you're going to make more money, people will do that. If it means you're going to put yourself in a better position, people will do that. The same people said that baseball wasn't going to go on strike. It'd be stupid for them to go on strike. People said the same thing about the NFL players or the NFL owners, that they had too much money to lose by with lockouts. And people do these things. Like, come on, this is don't be ridiculous.
You want to get Don Callahan fired up, get him talking about pro sports.
Or Kyle Schwarber.
Kyle Schwarber, best leadoff in Phillies history. Can I talk about Johnny T-shirt yet?
Go ahead.
I'm going to talk about Johnny T-shirt. Look, I saw we're talking about college football. I saw the coolest college football jersey out there on Johnny T-shirt's website that they're selling now. It's the white Carolina throwbacks. They need to be on the backs of the Tar Heel players when they go to Minnesota on August 29th. And you can get it at Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. 10% off your order if you're a Tar Pit Premium message board person. You get Don Callahan's work. You get Johnny T-Shirt discounts. Go see them. They've got everything you could possibly want. If the white jerseys aren't your thing, they got the blue jerseys. They got all different kinds of stuff, NIL stuff, tailgating stuff. And not only that, they're just nice, generally all around nice folks at Johnny T-Shirt, JohnnyT-Shirt.com. National folks pay the bills. This noon dish. All right, folks, we're back a little bit after noon, or excuse me, a little bit after 12:30. You need to get your top 5 picks in here. There you go. New King God's response to Don on the chat. They're not about to sacrifice their money for someone else, especially when a number of these players aren't coming from the best situation to begin with.
If you're part of a union, then you really have no choice, right? I mean, if you're part of a union, you don't have a choice. If your union says we're striking, you strike. I mean, that's a big part of it right there. I mean, he doesn't understand a lot of this stuff. I mean, it's easy to say. I mean, a lot of these kids, you're 18 and you see the rest of these, or yeah, you're 18 years old and the older guys are saying, hey, we're striking so to make sure, we get money. And really, you gotta understand that you probably could be not playing a season, but these, how long do strikes typically go? Most of the strikes don't go. I'm talking about pro sports strikes. Yes, we've had long ones, but most of them don't last full seasons. Most of them just like the last baseball one delayed the season by just a couple of weeks, and just the threat of it was able to get. And was that a strike or a lockout? Either way, it doesn't matter. They have leverage. The threat of a strike is leverage.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about
Eric Miller wants to go back to back.
I know he's trying to go back to back.
We probably should, except for people who are listening. Eric Miller said Don is from Philly. He knows unions.
Yeah, 100%. He knows pro sports and he knows unions. Let's talk about this weekly scoop you just dropped. This came out yesterday, or is it today?
Yesterday.
Yeah. Days run together when you're retired in the summer. All right, you have a ton of new offers for players in the 2026 class. So let me see. That means they are rising juniors. Yes.
Yes.
So we're talking 16, 17, possibly 17-year-old guys. Any surprise you? Any commitments forthcoming this early in the game?
I don't think so. Not from these guys. I think maybe we'll see some early or midway through the season, because we have seen like the last few cycles, we've seen a couple guys commit during the season. But just to kind of set the stage here a little bit, with the way the calendar is kind of working, and it's going to be even more next year with I know all of July is dead, and I know they're talking about potentially moving the signing period to the summer. And so if that happens, this is going to, not that, I mean, I don't know how much faster this could go, but I mean, really, the cycle's changing to the 2026 class, or has changed. I mean, yes, North Carolina has the running back position that we talked about. They have a couple other guys that they brought on for official visits in June who are making decisions this summer. But for the most part, we're focused on the 2026 class, and a lot of what I said, I think it was for the, 22 offers went out for this class. And obviously there was a bunch more who were offered prior to this summer. But these are the guys that obviously all of them except for one visit North Carolina in June, and drawing them back to campus for games this season is going to be key. And then again, after the season for junior days is going to be really important.
Yeah, I was going to say, you went where I was going. All but one they'd laid eyes on in person on campus. How big at this point, this early in the cycle, well, I say it's early in the cycle, but like you said, it's never early anymore. But as far as offering, North Carolina's policy or the way they've usually done it is they want to lay eyes on somebody in person before they do that, and that seems to be an ongoing thing here in 2026.
What was your question?
It was like a question
Okay. All
comment,
right.
but
So
yeah, they
how
want
important
to
the visits are.
they
Yeah.
want to no, not necessarily an
Okay.
official visit or anything, but actually getting them in camp. I see a ton
Yeah.
of these guys were offered during Showtime or offered during other camps. That is huge for this staff.
Yes, absolutely. And the interesting thing I feel like more this year than prior years is because obviously the Showtime camp, you expect a bunch of offers, and there were a bunch of offers at the Showtime camp. I mean, they're inviting their top targets, whether they've been offered yet or not. A lot of instances, they're trying to get these guys on campus so they can see them compete against other players that they feel are really good players and see how they react and how they perform and that sort of thing. And so those guys were offered. But what I guess stands out to me this year is how many offers were to guys who performed at one of the 7-on-7s. And we've talked about it a couple of times. One when we had Alex Mars on, and then also I think also we touched on it with Pat Sudis too, is how it has the I guess the philosophy with camps has changed to where the best way to get these kids on campus is through 7-on-7s. They're bringing their entire team, but it's a competitive environment where all of the coaches can kind of sit there and watch them, and not just for 10 minutes, but for an entire day. Really, I mean these 7-on-7s are fairly long, but yeah, a lot of offers went out to players who participated in one of the 4 7-on-7s.
What do you think the 2026 state of North Carolina class is going to look like? Because I'm looking at these numbers,
Yeah.
these folks you posted, and I'm not seeing a bunch of NCs on there.
Well, so North Carolina has offered a lot of in-state guys already,
Right.
so that was part of it. But the in-state class is going to be pretty stacked. You look at like I'm assuming Kendra Harrison is number 1, and then you have Samari Matthews. I mean, all these guys also visited Chapel Hill, and came to 7-on-7s.
So when people are looking at this, they need to understand that most of the North Carolina elite or the talent in North Carolina has been offered already.
And which I think not to say that additional in-state guys won't be offered, and there were a couple in-state guys who were offered, but you got to feel like the staff probably has a better grasp on the talent of an in-state guy over an out-of-state guy, just because they've seen them more frequently, and the chances of them being on campus at a camp previously when they were younger are very high compared to an out-of-state guy.
What any of these names surprise you? I see a lot of high like 5-star guys.
Yeah, I mean there was like
some younger brothers. Of,
no, I mean I wouldn't
say
say anyone surprised me. I mean they're like that Amari Latimer. He's a national guy. I mean there's a lot of national guys on here that you want to talk about NIL. Go look up that JC Anderson. That kid is like a spokesman for a real estate agent, has this really cool video that you can see online. And then also, I think he's some training facility. Those are the NIL deals that are great. And I think it's awesome he's able to take advantage of it. I'm not a huge fan of the ones of, school says, hey, come play here and we'll give you this. But if you're going to be a spokesman for a real estate agent and you're going to be on, commercials, that's awesome and great for him. So there's a couple national names, but and even the defensive line, that Zion Ely and Xavier Griffin are national names, guys who it's great to get them on campus, but you wonder just what sort of staying power North Carolina might have, in this environment. But Noah Navali, his brother Caleb is at North Carolina. I've known him for a little bit, knew of him for a little bit, and Florida State offered him in the spring. So it was cool to kind of see him get offered, just because of that situation. Also, it was interesting, I guess, I'm trying to find him now. the Pritchard kid. I don't want to call him Trenton Pritchard. His cousin was it Tyrell? Let me see. Yeah, and Tyler Pritchard. So it was funny because I was like, I wonder if they're related, same high school and everything. You probably don't remember Tyler Pritchard.
I
He didn't.
remember the name,
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
I mean, he didn't play a ton.
No, he didn't. I hardly played, but yeah. So I was like, hey, do you have a cousin named Tyler? He's like, oh yeah, he played in North Carolina. So that was kind of cool. Yeah, especially, and then looking back to see how far back Tyler played in North Carolina made me feel old because I thought it was only a couple of years ago.
No, you're not
He was
old.
almost 10.
You are looking much older since you've got an infant. But let me ask this question. It's curious to me. You say national guys, and I see these guys on here with their offers or whatever. How do these kids are 16? They haven't played their junior year in high school yet.
Mm-hmm.
Explain to folks how they get to be quote unquote national guys at that age.
Well, the main thing in a lot of those situations, when you see them, they don't look 16. So that's a big part of it. The other part of it is, all these guys have been out and been on showcase camps and 7-on-7s, and it's just easier to kind of market yourself and get your name out there. I mean, all these guys have, the guys that I was referring to have just offers from everywhere and have visited, in a lot of these instances have visited a bunch of places.
What's the youngest kid you've seen that was a quote unquote national recruit? Like how young can you be and start getting that rep?
Oh, that's a good question. I have
Eric
to really
Miller
think about
says Zeus was an alpha guy when he was
Zeus
12.
was a freak, and started hearing about Zeus when he was coming up. But I think he might have been a freshman. Antonio Williams. I remember his coaches telling me about him when he was in middle school, and even North Carolina. Now I guess he was a national guy. He went to Ohio State, and Wisconsin offered him also. Yeah, I mean, he was a kid I started hearing about when he was in middle school. There's a couple other guys. I mean, I usually kind of brush off the middle school stuff. Gus Ritchie, friend of the podcast.
I think we have found Don's favorite person ever.
Who's that?
You reference that kid more than anybody ever on this show. Like literally more than ever. I think you reference him more than Mac Brown.
Do I really? That's not good.
It's close. I remember. So when I went to Carolina, I was at Carolina from '89 to '93, and I may have told this story before, but I worked at the pools in Durham. Great job. Let's be a lifeguard my whole summers every year. But at the pools in Durham, and there was a young guy. Well, he wasn't young. He was six. I think if I remember correctly, he was 6'3", 225, rocked up, built. I was like, dude, how old are you? He was like, I'm 13. That's the kind of guy you're talking about. And I'm like, this dude is a grown man. He's not even 14 years old. He just turned a teenager.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of these kids. Cameron Cody, 6'3", 280. How many 16-year-olds do you know that are walking around like that?
I mean, it's fascinating. They ain't eating what I eat. They're not eating ho-hos and I started to say Betty White cookies, but you know what I'm talking about. Let's get off the topic.
Right. Do we have any other questions we haven't touched on?
Here you go. Here's one. It's not related to that, but it's related to 2025. How do you feel about Florida Gators trying to get Baker to visit?
I mean, I've been a Baker fan for a while, so I mean, I think that's smart of them. I don't know what their quarterback situation is, to be honest, but if they're in need of a quarterback, that sounds like a great move. Now, if your question is do I think North Carolina has anything to worry about? I don't, but
can't speak in absolutes in this world.
No, you absolutely can't speak in absolutes.
There you go.
But we might be able to get Bryce to answer that himself. So, stay tuned. Yeah.
We don't want to overpromise.
Yeah.
Final question I have on your offers, and it looks to be a trend. Dual sport athletes.
Mm-hmm.
How important is that symbiotic relationship between either basketball and football or baseball and football, because you mentioned Kendra Harrison. There's another guy on here that is a baseball, or excuse me, a basketball guy that you mentioned. Javaris Green, that's a wide receiver, a freshman wide receiver, is a baseball guy. Caleb Cost is a baseball guy. Um, how important, and is it becoming more important in your eyes in covering this recruiting stuff that both teams or both programs at a university sort of work together to secure a guy?
The obvious thing is that you're only talking about a couple guys, each class. So it's not like huge, but for those specific guys, it does make a difference. It is something that, hypothetically, let's say North Carolina basketball told Kendre, you can't play with us. You can't play for us. Then Kendre Harrison is probably not coming to North Carolina. You know what I mean? So clearly it is a situation that definitely helps. It helps that that the relationship is there to kind of work things out. It's super helpful to be able to point to examples of players who are currently doing it, such as Caleb Cost. I thought it was a great move by North Carolina for Micah Matthews, wide receiver, 4-star wide receiver out of Virginia, who officially visited North Carolina in June. His player host was Caleb Cost. I think that was very smart. So you can exactly say, what does my year look like at North Carolina? So I mean, for those guys who intend on playing multiple sports, it is massive for North Carolina's football staff to have those relationships with baseball and with basketball.
Yep, indeed. You can't have. I mean, it takes a village, is the saying, but you always got to have everybody working together this day and age, more so than ever. And especially for a guy like Harrison, if you're going to get that done. Anything left on the recruiting front? You've got a couple other articles. I don't want to spoil them. Folks need to get on the premium boards. You've got an article on Elijah Golden out there. Anything left to sort of tease all the work you've done this week?
No, mostly because I now I've just remembered I have a couple phone calls I got to make at 1, so we got to get the top 5
so
on.
We're getting preempted by Don Callahan's work. We're going to talk top 5, and top 5 is going to be sponsored by Congruity. Go to congruityhr.com/Tar Heels to get your free small to mid-sized business assessment. Darren and Matt and all, that whole team, they built their local business here in North Carolina up to a national brand. So they're local. They know what North Carolina folks need. They want to help you build your business through technology, customer service. They handle all the heavy lifting while you grow your business and you do business things. congruityhr.com/Tar Heels, small to mid-sized business. Tell them Inside Carolina sent you and get it free. If you don't like it, you don't spend a dime. If you like it and use it, might make you a lot of dimes. Check out Congruity and also Johnny T-shirt. Top five college mascots. We've got a few in here, Don. You want to give yours and then we'll do the others?
Why don't we do the others and then give mine?
All right, we'll do Preston. Preston, Weak Forest, Demon Deacon, Dartmouth, Big Green, whatever that red blob is from Western Kentucky. What is that thing?
Yeah.
UC Santa Cruz, Banana Slugs, and Ramses, and we won't say the rest because this is a family show. Preston, come on, this is not.
That's the same reason why I have Ramses on mine. I'm just gonna say.
This is that's got to be Northern humor. No order: Ramses, Nittany Lion, Georgia Bulldog, Brutus the Buckeye, Syracuse Orange. I heard college football does not have the mascot game too, by the way, and people are mad about that.
Really?
I never understand that. Ramses Jr. This is Joshua Mills, by the way. Ramses Jr., Chief Osceola, and Renegade. Yeah, that's a good one. I forgot that. Ralphie the Buffalo. Who's Big Red?
Big Red is the Western Kentucky blob.
Is that what that is?
Yeah,
that thing that's behind you? Is that orange thing behind you his brother?
That's Gritty. That's the best mascot in all of sports.
Eric Russ, Syracuse Orange, Brutus Buckeye, Colorado Buffalo, Texas Longhorn, and the Oklahoma Sooner. So So is the Sooner the guy or the wagon? Is it the dude driving the wagon or is it
What
the
is a
wagon?
Sooner?
I don't know. I thought it was like a. Oh, I'm gonna change this.
Oh goodness.
No, I don't know if I can say that on air. Did
Oh
you see?
boy.
Did you see the Texas A&M fan
I,
trolling Tennessee,
I don't think so.
saying, "What is a volunteer anyway?"
I did not.
I
This is
I don't
not
want to say it.
okay.
I'm quoting it. It says, "The reason you're not Mexico A&M."
Oh,
I was like, "Holy smokes!" They just nuked the entire
wow.
Texas A&M fan base. I'm quoting, folks. I'm 100% quoting a widely shared tweet.
This is not yours or Inside Carolina's opinion.
No, it was just like it was an interesting response. Let's go. What are yours?
All right, I really struggle because I have a lot that I like. So can I? All right, let me just go reverse order. My number one is Stanford Tree because it's weird as hell, and I think it's been suspended a couple times. So that I mean that's pretty cool, right?
The San Diego Chicken.
I guess. I
I was
also have
reading what Eric Miller said.
is the name given to settlers who enter the unassigned lands illegally in what is now the state of Oklahoma before the official start of the. So okay, so the settlers are Sooners.
Yeah,
So I guess it would be the person.
but Russ agrees with me. It's the wagon. All right, start over. I
All right.
interrupted you.
So, all right, Stanford Tree because it's weird and it has been suspended a couple times. I think that's pretty cool. That's my number one.
Okay.
Okay. My number two is Ramses for the live mascot for the
Right.
reasons that our good friend Preston stated. It always amazes me. Maybe I'm just immature. Number three, I don't think anyone had this. Mike the Tiger for LSU. I have never seen Mike in person, but I've heard that it is the scariest crap you will ever see when you walk past him.
You're talking
And
about
then,
the live tiger.
yeah, yes, the live tiger. Yep. And then number four, Big Red, which is the blob from Western Kentucky, mostly because it's weird and what the hell is it? And then, man, I struggled. I have Sparty, and I had to look up some of this. The Villa the Warrior is the Hawaiian guy because he does the Hawaiian dance. That's pretty cool. And Chief, how do you pronounce that? Is it
Osceola. That's how I
Osceola?
would say it. It's
Osceola.
probably wrong, but that's how I
I mean
would say it.
that's a pretty cool when he comes out and throws the spear on the field. It's pretty cool. So yeah, I know that's more than five. I struggled to kind of cut some guys out, but
I'm going Bevo
okay.
in Bevo, the Texas Longhorn, and
Yes.
Uga's number one for me.
Okay.
Ramses, of course, is in a different level by them. We'll go non-Ramses. It's kind of like favorite non-Carolina player. Uh, Bevo, Uga, the Buffalo, the War Eagle. That's pretty cool when they fly the Auburn's War Eagle. I can't ever figure out how. I always have
It
to
comes
read
back.
up how they got War Eagle out of Auburn
Um,
Tigers and stuff. There's a story there. Folks can
yeah.
check it out. I think the Clemson Tiger is pretty cool, but I like the LSU Tiger better. To your point,
Hmm.
ACC mascots, probably Florida State, probably, and I kind of like the ibis. Is it ibis for Miami?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, he does that weird thing with his beak, though. I
Yeah,
feel
I
like
mean
it's unrealistic.
it's kind of cool. Well, I don't know.
Like that would be painful if he was a real, you know. Like I don't pick my lips and
Yeah, I'm all about live mascots. I've always thought Carolina should have it's actually a bighorn sheep, but like run one of those out there with blue horns. You know what I'm talking
Mhm.
about? The big things. That would be cool. But yeah, Bevo and Ugo would be at the top of my list. And I dig the animals. Anything
Okay.
left? SMU Mustang. Yeah, that's right. Cal Bear and Stanford Tree. Pride of the ACC. Did you see where I saw a tweet? Somebody said Cal will will log 24,000 miles to their
Yeah,
away games this year.
and that's the length of the equator or close to it or whatever it was.
A circle of the world. I mean,
Yeah.
it is just ridiculous. But anyway,
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully
all,
that gets fixed.
all Coast Conference.
Yep, that's right.
Anything left before we get out of here?
Nope. We will be back next week, though. That's the plan.
That's the plan.
And potentially have a guest. So
Potential special guest next week on Noon Dish.
If you
That's
pay
Don
attention,
Callahan.
you might know who it is.
Yeah, you may know who it is.
No promises right now, though.
Yeah. No absolutes in this world.
That's right.
That's Don Callahan. I'm Tommy Ashley. We're sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt, johnnytshirt.com, and Congruity. Check out the Noon Dish. If you missed us, if you got here late, rewind it. Start it over. Don kicks a ton of knowledge out here. Don, get to work. You got 1 o'clock phone calls.
That's right. All right. See you later, Tommy.